Hey everyone. So in today's video, I want to talk about TypeScript and how it is used for more than just shaping your data, but it actually can define your entire system when you think about things like data flow, client interaction, and in this example, money. So today I want to walk you through how I design my invoice building application inside of a Next.js project using TypeScript and some of the trade-offs and some of the things that I decided to do as it related to which TypeScript type I chose to go with. And hopefully this video you'll find useful and equally important, maybe even save you from some painful bugs down the road so you don't make some of the same mistakes I did. But with that said, let's go ahead and jump in and get started. So here's the first version I built. And interfaces are great because they are extendable and they're super readable, right? And they work perfectly when your data is flat or you have a big code base that you're working with. But when I started to need unions like between service and product line items, interfaces kind of felt a little rigid. And then I knew it was time to switch to the type aliases, right? So types are going to be more composable, if you will. You can merge and union or intercept them so much easier than you can with the interface alias. So my rule now is that if I'm modeling behavior or variances, I'm going to use type. And if I'm modeling static data, interface still works just fine, and I'll just continue to use that. Now, where I ran into my second issue is when I was dealing with money. And with this particular application, dealing with money is going to be one of the core things I need to do because ultimately you want to send an invoice to a client, and my client needs to be able to adjust the amount and the rate at which they charge each specific client. So my first attempt looked like this. And as you could imagine with the type of money, this is looking for a whole number. And I ran into some rounding issues as I started to integrate taxes and I no longer dealt with whole numbers. So at that point, I decided to switch over to cents. Obviously with cents, it's going to be a lot easier to work with a non-rounded number, and it only deals with integers, which made a lot of sense for this particular project. This is going to keep the calculations exact, and I only format the dollars when I'm displaying a value back to the user. So in large projects, I may consider use brand. I don't know if you've ever heard of that, but brand is going to allow a little more flexibility than what money will. And if I use brand and cents, this should prevent accidental mixing of the two types, which can cause a compile time error down the road. And equally important, cause some issues in the development process and not allow me to deliver a good product to the customer. Because ultimately, that's what it's all about. Next, I needed to separate my domain model, which is what the UI and my logic use, versus the DTO, which is basically what gets stored in the database. And in this application, I'm using server actions. So this separation gave me a much cleaner logic for calculations inside of the app while keeping the API and that communication with the server separate. It is a little more effort, but it prevents the data versus string or object versus ID headache that I'm sure every Next.js or React developer has experienced at some point. So before I let you go, I just want to share a few little tips that I've picked up along the way that have helped me with this process. Number one, use read-only for calculated values so you don't accidentally mutate the total. You can use partial or pick for your form or to update your form data. Use satisfies if you're defining constant objects so they're fully type checked, if you will. And if you're using Zod, infer your types directly from your validation schema. That way you're not being redundant and you're keeping those two things aligned. And with that, that's going to be today's quick tutorial. I hope you found this beneficial. If you did, leave a comment in the comment section saying types. And also feel free to give me a like, consider subscribing, and I'll see you in the next one.